What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to High School Never Ends, a Pop Punk Dad podcast. I am probably still Wingman Steve.
What is going on, Wingman Steve? I'm Chris 183.
Oh, tongue-tied.
I've never heard you be that tongue-tied to start an episode, but this is a very appropriate one to do so because we are still in movie May, and for all of you out there, this is going to be a real treat because we picked probably one of my favorite movies of all time. I'm just throwing it out there, right? I don't care. Well,
Wow.
we're not even going to pull any punches because this is going to be an awesome show. But before we get to that, before we get to the name of the movie, before we talk about anything more, let's talk about our guest and let's welcome back to the show, Matt Kelly. Matt, why did we ask you to be here today? Can you tell the fans?
It's probably because I have a podcast about Christmas. No,
is there a topic that you don't have a podcast about?
Not yet. Muppets. I haven't done a Muppets podcast yet, shockingly. No, I have a podcast called Weird Algorithm. It is a podcast hosted by myself and Matt Milligan of the band Wheatus. And every week we are working through Al's entire career from front to back. At the time that we're recording this, we are just about to dive into probably his biggest album, Bad Hair Day from 1996 with Amish Paradise. That's where I discovered Al. We're like officially about to enter the era where I am an Al fan in real time as things are happening and not stuff I learned in the past. But UHF was the Al Yankee. Oh, wait, did I spoil things? Should I not say UHF yet?
No,
I mean, it's the name of the episode.
Yeah, people already know that.
Go with it.
UHF is kind of one of the most important aspects of his entire career because this almost killed Weird Al. Like, thank God Nirvana came around a couple years later because this could have been the end of Al Yankovic for no other reason. And I'm sorry if I'm stealing anyone's thunder. This movie was opened in just the craziest summer of movies that has ever existed, and it didn't stand a chance. This movie came out in the same month as Indiana Jones: The Last Crusade, Ghostbusters 2, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, Lethal Weapon 2, Batman, License to Kill, Dead Poet Society, When Harry Met Sally, Do the Right Thing, and Weekend at Bernie's were all what it was up against in the summer that this was in theaters. Basically killed Orion Pictures. Like this movie was just rolling in, destroying careers left and right, and it is an absolute surrealistic comedy masterpiece at the same time.
I wonder if back then, so there has to be a scale, like when movies come out nowadays, everybody knows what's coming out, months, years in advance. I wonder if they had any idea what they were going up against and if they had thought maybe to switch the release.
Well, I think the thing that you have to remember is Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. No one knew what that was going to do. Right. So that's not a sequel at that point. Batman, people were making jokes about the idea that like the Beetlejuice guy was going to make a Batman movie with Mr. Mom. Like no one had high expectations for that. Dead Poet Society and Do the Right Thing were total sleeper hits, as was When Harry Met Sally and Weekend at Bernie's. Like I'm sure that in their mind, they're like, yeah, we're going up against like an Indiana Jones and a Ghostbusters movie. But like, I don't think that they expected every single film that was being released at that time to actually be like an iconic juggernaut that is still like thought about fondly 30 something years later. You know what I mean? Like they had no clue of knowing. Now, yeah, they absolutely look at like, oh, we don't want to open up against a Marvel movie, or like, oh, another Batman movie's coming out, so we want to push our movie at least 2 or 3 weeks after that movie comes out because everyone's going to go see that. No one will see our movie. Because it's more common now that you just see like 1 or 2 movies get released on a specific week in theaters. Versus I think back then you'd get like 4 or 5 movies a week dropping in the theaters, because there was like, what the heck else was there to do? So you just would go to the movies and see a movie. And that was when you would just show up and see if it was sold out. Like,
gotta get there early.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you get there early, you have a plan B. You're like, okay, well, if Batman's sold out, we'll try to get into the When Harry Met Sally that's 20 minutes after that.
Yeah. I remember those days. I'll tell you what, though. So this is the year. First of all, yes, the movie that we are going to talk about today is UHF. UHF. What is UHF? I'd like to ask that question. But before you answer that, this movie is coming out in the year of 1989. So we are right on the cusp of the 1990s. And you guys already talked about all of the movies that were coming out that year. But talk about first the level of importance, or let's say, what level of stardom did Weird Al Yankovic have in 1989?
Okay, so man, am I perfectly suited to answer this question that you asked, Chris. Al's career is a series of peaks and valleys. It kind of has always been, right? Like, he had this underground popularity from Dr. Demento. He gets signed to Scotti Brothers. He puts out his self-titled debut, and it does okay. You know what I mean? But like, it doesn't like wow anybody. And then in 1984, he does Eat It. And all of a sudden, he's this superstar, and he's taking over MTV, and he's doing all these bits. And then he follows it up with Dare to Be Stupid, an album that many people consider his best album. Like, it's a very good album. Like a Surgeon is on that one. That one also does pretty okay for him. And then he puts out Polka Party, and nobody buys it. It is just it's a flat out tanker of an album. I believe in all of the 80s and 90s, it is his only album in the 80s and 90s that did not go gold. Like, it just, nobody bought it. And then it takes him 2 years until we get to 1988. He jumps back on the Michael Jackson train. He puts out Fat. Fat blows him back into the stratosphere. And that's when someone says, you should have a movie. And he makes this movie. He's on top of the world. He's hosting again. He's doing Al TV on MTV. He's promoting it. Orion Pictures does like a test screening of it that goes through the roof. They say it's the best respondent film they've ever had in their entire history. People are loving it. And Al literally thinks like, this is the thing. This is the thing that's going to take him from like silly musician to like respected comedic actor. And nobody sees the movie. The soundtrack also sells horrendously. The soundtrack is, side note, the podcast that we do, we rank our favorite, we rank every song that we cover and every album we cover from our favorite to our least favorite. The soundtrack to UHF is my least favorite thing that Al has ever put out. I just think it's a fairly bad album, with the exception, because I know we're going to talk about this a bunch, the title track, the song UHF, might be one of the best songs that Al Yankovic has ever written. It is so good. But yeah, this was, at the time that this movie came out, no one thought Al would be bigger than Al was at that point. And then this kind of brought him all the way back down until 1992 when he does Smells Like Nirvana, and it kind of revives him. And then I would say Amish Paradise is where we finally hit like, Al is a loved and respected musician who will stay that way for the next 20 some years, regardless on record sales. He's always going to be okay because there's just such a loyal love and appreciation for him. But this was, yeah, at that point, he was at the highest he could be. And this also brought him potentially to the lowest he could have ever been in his career.
When did you guys first see this movie? I'm curious.
I'll let Chris answer first.
I had to have been, it wasn't in the theater, but I was not that old. It had to have been around this time. I feel like basically what happened was I rented it. So it would have had to have been, 90, probably 1990-ish, because I remember in elementary, this brings back all the memories in the world watching this movie. And the memories include everything that I used to emulate going to school with my friends coming from this movie. Like, I remember these bits over and over again and just doing them and thinking it was the funniest thing in the world. So we're going to say probably like, I don't know, definitely elementary school time frame. What about you, Matt?
I think for me, it was firmly 1996, 1997. So what happened was I did not know who Weird Al was until Amish Paradise came out. I was watching The Box, and that video basically lived on the Philadelphia affiliate of The Box. Like, it came on every hour on the hour. And at that time, It was probably the greatest 2 years of my childhood because there was a Sam Goody CD store directly behind my house. So anytime that I discovered a musician that I liked, I could just walk over to this used CD store with a little bit of money and basically get their entire catalog.
You also, back in the day, used to like be able to sample CDs.
Yeah,
I
you
don't know
could
if
just
Sam
pop them
Goody-
into
yeah.
the CD player with the headphones and check out like if you wanted it. So I discovered Weird Al, and in a very not Matt Kelly move, because I'm such a completionist normally. Like in a normal world, I would have just walked in there and bought every Weird Al CD that they had. But they also had this VHS tape that was the Weird Al music video collection. And I was like, oh, I'm going to buy that. And I watched this tape and the UHF music video was on there. And that's how I discovered that this movie even existed. So I think I immediately following me watching that music video compilation made my parents take me to Blockbuster so I could rent the movie. And it definitely became one of those films similar to something like Freaked. There was like this handful of like very abstract alternative comedy type films that just became my entire personality. And I certainly showed many a human UHF from that point on, because I was like, you need to see this. You don't understand how brilliant this movie is. Like it took over from there. But yeah, it was probably, if not 1996, early 1997, because it would have been right as I started to become an Al fan. How about you, Steve? Was this your first watch?
So I come with a little bit of a different perspective, and background on me, based on your timeline, I think I was a Weird Al fan actually before you were a Weird Al fan, because I remember when those Michael Jackson songs were starting to blow up on MTV in the late 80s, early 90s. I got a taste of it, and my grandmother she would buy me things. She would take me to the record store. I remember I got the box set. It was, I think
we
it was
talked about this.
Permanent Record.
Permanent Record, Al in a Box. We talked about this at a Punchline show.
That's right.
You told me which one you owned, and I said, oh, yeah, that was Permanent Record, Al in a Box.
So I think it was 3 cassette tapes, and it was a mix of basically the greatest hits and some of the originals that weren't like hits, and I loved it. And I'm also a big fan of silly movies and comedies, but the first time that I've seen UHF was in 2024, about 2 weeks ago. Maybe it just wasn't on cable and I didn't rent it and I never sought it out. I don't have a real reason why, but I am definitely coming with a super fresh perspective, not a 1989 perspective, a 2024 perspective on this film. So we'll see if I have some of the same opinions or if a lot of it is rooted in nostalgia.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I feel like I've had this conversation before with a film that I'm imagining all three of us grew up with, which is, of course, The Goonies, right?
Oh, yeah.
Have you ever talked to someone who had only seen Goonies for the first time as an adult?
Yeah, someone was talking in our Discord channel about it, I believe.
Most people cannot stand it.
Yeah,
they and I heard someone say this one time, and then I watched the movie and I got it. Because they were like, I don't understand why people like this movie. It's just children screaming for 2 hours. And then I put it on and I'm like, oh, yeah, that is mostly what this movie is. It's like 7 kids yelling throughout the whole movie, but it's still great and I love it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't change how I perceive it, but I get not growing up, looking up to those characters as like who you would want to be as an adult. Mm-hmm. Like just watching it completely blind in your 40s, being like, this is really annoying.
Well, I actually texted Chris. I was like halfway through watching the movie the first time a few weeks ago. I was like, Chris, we usually talk about movies that are related to music. I was like, I thought since this was Weird Al, this was going to be like a music movie. Should we still do it? And he's like, yes, we should definitely still do it.
There's a music video in it. There's a music video in it. He makes music. It's all about music. So there you go.
Yeah. I think it counts.
It fits. We're here.
If you had messaged me blind and said, Matt, we're doing a month of music movies, what are some suggestions? I think UHF would have been maybe not like my first pick, but it would have been in my top like 10 movies that I would have sent you.
Well, this is the 9th episode in Movie May ever, so that tracks.
Wait. Yeah. Who doesn't like Goonies? I want to list to these people.
I think Doug Benson is one that's very vocal about not liking Goonies.
I've never run into any. You say that like that people don't like it. Like I've never run into a soul that doesn't like this movie, like that has seen it. Like everybody's always so, yes, you have to see Goonies. I've either run into people that haven't seen it just because hey, I get it. There's movies you haven't seen in life. Like sometimes you miss things, but I've never heard anybody that didn't like it. So that's
Look,
news to me. It's interesting you say that.
I'll say this, me personally, I am more of a member of the Monster Squad than the Goonies. Like if I could only be one of the 80s children films, I would go Monster Squad every time.
Well, you also
But,
host a horror movie podcast, so that also tracks.
I mean, that's true too. But yeah, just I think the Monster Squad's inherently cooler. But that is not, those are both definitively not music movies. Although they do, yeah, I mean, Goonies has a ripping Cyndi Lauper song in it. But
It's amazing.
Probably
It's
covers it.
amazing, and it's on my playlist for the summer pool parties. So just
it's
just
a
heads up.
perfect talk about a perfect pool party song. And also talk about a perfect pool party song, the UHF theme song. All right, so diving into UHF.
Diving into UHF.
Well,
So curious with what Steve, as the person going in blind, thought about this movie. If you had to assign it a star rating, I'll say across 10 stars.
Matthew, we save those things for
Okay.
close to the end of the show. Remember, I know you're
Easy,
a podcaster.
easy.
The host over here, you're the guest. We're gonna get to that eventually.
All right.
What
Wait a
we
minute.
start with is just some basic stats I got here. So it was written by Weird Al himself and his manager Jay Levy. It was directed by Jay Levy. It came out, as you guys said, is July 21st, right in the middle of the summer, 1989. Runs a pretty easy 97 minutes, and the flop or the lack of people that saw it, it cost $5 million to make this movie. That's a pretty, like, to make a movie for $5 million is kind of crazy, but it only grossed 6.1 million, so just a little bit more than it put out. It does have a nice 61% on Rotten Tomatoes. And the way that we usually get into the beginning of these episodes, Matt, is that we ask our guest to give a brief synopsis of the entire movie. And, don't worry about spoilers because this movie is fucking
I'm not worried about
almost as old
spoilers. I'm
as us.
worried about me and the word brief.
hold on now. Hold on. I'm gonna bring this to a crawl because that's just what I do. I had a question before we get into this. Do you guys even know what UHF is? Do you know what a UHF station is? I bet there's a lot of listeners out there that don't.
So as a kid, we had a bunch of TVs in my house, and we had one very old TV that sat on the kitchen counter. And after I saw this movie, I noticed that there was an option to flip it to the UHF station. And I will tell you right now, I was wildly disappointed that there was not like Wheel of Fish and stuff on that UHF station. It was just other shows. Like it was just like other channels. It was just a different type. Like you had like it was like the television equivalent of AM versus FM radio, essentially.
Okay, so did they play Mr. Ed on these stations? It says that they were usually numbered 14 to 83. Steve or Matt, did you ever watch channel 83?
I remember actually having a box, like a clicker box, when I was a real young kid that had, so I think there were 13 numbers, and there was a dial where you could go up, middle, or down. So that would mean that the max channel I got was 39. That was when I was really young, and I do remember that channel box thing. I don't really remember going up that high in the channels until cable became somewhat close to what it became.
Got it.
I don't think I
Okay.
watched UHF channels. Ultra high frequency is what it stands for, and it's I think of it as kind of the equivalent of like Wayne's World Public Access. It's kind of some random person owns it. I guess with public access, it's a public station, so someone else owns it. But it's kind of like the programming, as we see in this movie. The programming is almost anything goes.
Yep.
I actually think that it would have been the opposite, actually.
Of what?
Like, I think that UHF. Oh no, I guess you're right. UHF would have been the. I'm sorry. I'm realizing that I know in the broadest terms. So I'm like sitting here on the actual UHF Wikipedia page, trying to like understand what the difference was, because I never thought about it as anything other than you either have the VHF or the UHF, and you just flip the toggle, and there's more channels on the other.
That's why the
on the other
network
side
guy,
of it.
the antagonist, wasn't even considering them serious until they got some ratings.
I guess if you had to use it in a comparative term, it would be the difference between like your basic cable stations and your cable stations in, say, like the later era of the 90s, because like ABC ABC and Fox would always feel like ABC, NBC, CBS, those channels would always feel like they were going to be the juggernauts that were always going to be in the top 10 most watched shows because everybody in America, no matter what, if they had a television, had access to those channels versus like an MTV or a VH1 or a Nickelodeon was like a slightly higher level that like maybe not like my house didn't have cable for many, many years. So I missed out on so much like Nickelodeon and Disney Channel stuff of my childhood because of that. So I guess, yeah, that's the way to put it in terms that I would understand or relate to is like, think of UHF as like having that extra cable bump and you could get some really weird, crazy shit when you had that cable bump.
It's like the stations that would end with the American the anthem, the national anthem, and then it would be nothing, right?
For hours.
I don't remember any stations like that, so actually, maybe I do, honestly. And it always freaked me out when a station would end. I don't know why, it just always did. But okay, so I think that's that. And now, Steve, you can go ahead with your thing with the show or whatever you do.
Okay. We'll go back to that. I was offering for our guests to give a brief explanation of the entire movie for listeners that may be listening but did not take the 97 minutes to watch the film. What happens in UHF?
Well, first off, you can pause a podcast to go and watch the 97 minutes and then come back and finish the podcast, which is what I personally would recommend that you do. But if you don't care about that type of trivial stuff, the story is about George Newman, played by Weird Al Yankovic, who is a dreamer who just can't seem to hold down a job. During a random bout of good luck, his uncle Bernie happens to win a random UHF station from a big poker game and gifts it to George. George and his best friend try to successfully run this channel, not doing so well until they start creating their own weird versions of television shows. And even then, it's slow going. People aren't exactly clamoring for George's man on the street stuff or his Uncle Wacky's, fun house. But on an off chance, they ask their janitor, Stanley Spikowski, to take over Al's duties hosting the show. And in what seems to be a matter of 15 minutes, Stanley Spikowski becomes a national phenomenon. And with that influx of money, they start creating shows with all of their friends. And it's going great until an evil TV station owner across the way decides that he needs to put these people down. He's going to purchase the studio and destroy it. And they do a giant fundraiser to raise money to save the station, their SOS Save Our Station event. And I will just throw this out there right now. For the last 5 years, the podcast network that I'm a part of, Geekscape, we have organized a 24-hour charity event where all of the podcasters host different shows and we have musical guests and all that different stuff to raise money for Big Brothers Big Sisters of New Jersey. It is very much inspired by me watching UHF and saying, I want to do our own version of the UHF, like Save Our Station marathon on the internet with all of our friends doing like the craziest, wackiest shit that we can think of. So that's just a side tangent, but it's a movie from the 80s. So they do succeed and they save the UHF station. Meanwhile, the nasty man who runs the major network gets his comeuppance as everyone learns that he's a real piece of trash and he seemingly loses everything by the end of the movie.
And gets kneed in the nuts.
Also, there's a bunch of other stuff. There's a crazy character who turns out to be some type of claymation alien. That's not important now, but we'll get there.
We will. And I think that was a good job kind of going through the overall plot. Look, we normally take this point to start to pick things apart, things that don't make sense in a movie. And I'll tell you what, like, I don't know if there's a lot of that here. I feel like this movie makes a lot of sense in the simplest form. Like it just does. I don't know.
It makes sense in the world of the logic that it's presenting itself in. Is that I think that when you do films like UHF, or I've mentioned another movie, Freaked, like movies like that are specifically designed to be, or even like a Wet Hot American Summer, right? These are movies that are built to be absurdist to a certain level. So it almost makes them like you can't like pick apart plot flaws or whatever. But I agree with you, even by the realm of like a truly wacky film, the plot beats follow it follows a logistic format. It I think one of the films that it's really comparable to in my mind is like Pee-wee's Big Adventure, right? Like on its surface, Pee-wee's Big Adventure seems like it should be this wacky, nonsensical, dumb movie. That film is taught in film schools because it has a perfect 3-act structure, like more so than most major motion pictures. It like hits the exact mark where the first act should become the second act and the second act should become the third act at like the exact recommended time point and like in a logical way. And I think UHF kind of is right there with it as like act 1 ends where it feels like act 1 should end, and act 2 ends where act 2 feels like it should end. And like the character motivations make sense. The villain's motivations make sense. Your hero is likable. The love interests motivations are logical. Like the escalation of points is like everything actually holds water more than like a typical satirical parody film, like say Airplane or, like a Naked Gun movie. This actually holds logistical water as well as being absurdist.
Right. Unlike That Thing You Do. That was absurd. Yes.
Yeah, That Thing You Do, as fun as that movie is, like it is outrageous to think that anything would play out the way that Thing You Do lays out for things to play out.
I don't know that I fully buy into that. I'm a fan of That Thing You Do. I think that's.
I love That Thing You listen. Adam Schlesinger,
right?
Like great movie, but it is a very like souped up, ridiculous version of something. But I mean, you could say that too. I feel like the UHF movie is probably telling a tale that in real life would take a couple years to happen, as if it happened over like 3 weeks. And that would be my biggest complaint about That Thing You Do, is that it's definitely like a sped up version of the record label contract situations. But like, who wants to sit there and watch a movie that takes 3 years to get going at the same time? Like, it's movie making, people. You got to keep things moving.
Well, I think the fact that it's Weird Al gives it kind of it's allowable to have the absurd and say, like it's okay. So I think all the things, I don't really think there are any plot holes. There are things that are just really silly, but they're all like Weird Al type things, and they're mixing in spoofs, they're mixing in jokes. So I think there's kind of the excuse that even if it's over the top and insane and can't be believed, it's like, oh well, that was just a hallucinate. That was just a daydream. So there are some things that are, definitely stretches of the imagination, but I feel like he kind of just gets a pass because like that's like what you would expect from a movie that Weird Al writes.
Exactly. I think that it's cool that Al realized that when he's doing music, he gets to do parodies of music. So why not do a parody of films if he's doing a film? You know what I mean? So it's like, he gets his Rocky homage in there. He gets his Indiana Jones homage in there. He gets
but those things. What I'm saying is those things do not necessarily make sense in the plot or make any. They're not.
But they're
really
written off as just him
in.
fantasizing
Right,
about.
it's like, oh, okay,
something.
he's fantasizing.
It does though. It does though, because he's fantasizing. Like for you mentioned. Did you mean Rambo? Is that what you meant?
Did I say Rocky? Yeah, I meant Rambo.
Same idea. Same idea, but it's the way that he fantasizes breaking into that station to rescue the hostage, which is Michael Richards or Stanley Spadowski. That's not absurd. That's just in his mind his way of kind of envisioning that whole thing playing out. But everything else is everything else that you may consider absurd are actually tied up in the shows that are on this UHF station that he envisions, and or again other daydreams similar to that one.
Well, I mean, not the entire opening sequence. I mean, he's staring at a hamburger thinking that he's Indiana Jones.
Well, so here's what I'll say. There is one thing that I will complain about with this movie. So when we got to the movie UHF on Weird Algorithm, what we ended up doing was recording our own commentary track that people could listen to while watching the movie UHF. And Matt and I both pointed out that there's one scene in this movie that we don't actually like, and we believe was forced upon Al to do in the movie. And it's probably the only thing that qualifies it for being part of this discussion. It is the Beverly Hillbillies Dire Straits mashup. And what our complaint about it is that throughout this entire movie, we get these fantasy sequences. We get this like Indiana Jones sequence where you see how much of a dreamer he is and how much of a wild imagination he has. And like that scene to me should have been a actual fantasy scene where it makes sense why he jumps to like they have to make their own shows. Like him just fantasizing about a Dire Straits song, singing the lyrics to the Beverly Hillbillies isn't enough for me to make sense that he jumps to creating his own shows, because we've seen him be so much more creative earlier in the movie than that creative thought. I feel like Scotty Brothers was like, if you're making a movie, you've got to put a parody song in this movie or people are going to lose their mind. And it feels like really tacked it on. Like, I feel like if you made this same movie and you just completely cut that scene out, you wouldn't even know that something had been removed from the movie, because it doesn't do anything plot wise, but I feel like it's supposed to make us feel like, oh, now he's realizing he can do stuff. Like, it just feels very out of place. But I would argue that the Indiana Jones scene, the Rambo scene, is supposed to be giving us insight on how outward thinking George is, and that like this UHF station wouldn't survive in the hands of any other person because they needed George's very out there, constantly daydreaming, fantastical vision to make things like Wheel of Fish a possibility, because no other person would be that like engrossed in crazy fantasies like that to create those types of ideas.
Steve, you were going to say something.
Yeah, they set him up to be this imaginative, creative dude, right? Yeah. But I think the one thing that bugs me, or the one thing that I might change in the movie if I was part of it, which I'm not and I was not, that the fact when the station started to succeed, okay, it was based on pure like dumb luck. They didn't really put in an overarching like moral lesson that they could have made it seem like just be yourself and great things are possible. Like, cause that's what the lesson should be. But all they did was have him fucking super down in the dumps, and then he walks away so pissed off and lets the janitor take over, and Stanley Spadowski does such a good job that then he can now be creative. I feel like they missed out on the opportunity to like have him be the creator and teach the audience that like you can dream it, you can do it. Well, he had nothing to do with the success of the show. He was just lucky that this guy, caught fire.
So I would argue. Okay, go ahead, Chris.
Real quick. Sometimes I think that's, when you think about the arena of TV, like, there could be good shows or there could be good ideas, but if a show, there's nothing to catch, if there's nothing to attract attention to that channel that really draws people in, people may miss the other shows or not totally feel like, they want to invest the time into the channel. Again, you need that draw. So I feel like, the fact that even though they just stumbled into it with this janitor guy, it allowed some of the ideas that Weird Al had for the show to kind of shine even better. And again, it's not like he come up with anything even better after this caught fire. I think that people just paid a little bit more attention to the absurd shows that he put together, and they ended up, several of them ended up being more popular as a result, whether it be Elite or not.
Yeah, so. I would argue, and this might be me putting my own personal life into it, but my read of the movie has always been this. So I started podcasting in 2005. And I always say I was podcasting in 2005. I wasn't good at podcasting until about 2014, because for 9 years, I was trying to just emulate what the other people who I liked who were podcasters or radio personalities were doing. So like the first podcast I did wasn't really Matt Kelly hosting a podcast. It was Matt Kelly doing a Howard Stern impersonation, hosting a podcast. And it wasn't until I just started being authentically me on a microphone that like things started to connect. Uncle Nutso is not George. You know what I mean? Like that is like George playing the character of what he thinks a morning, like a kid's TV show host is supposed to be. And it's this like over the top voice and like this kind of lack of understanding. But when Stanley Spadowski goes on there and he's just purely himself, the audience is brought into it. And I think while it doesn't make George necessarily start to be himself on television, what he starts doing is reaching out to all of his interesting friends and letting them be themselves on his network as well. And it stops being him trying to be Geraldo and him trying to, like, he's not trying to be other people. He's creating their own unique shows that highlight what their personality traits are.
I think I would have liked to hear some more dialogue from him. Like, I would have liked him to be the creator and him to be like, okay, guys, look what Spadowski did. You can do this too. Karate Guy, Wheel of Fish, you know, all these other people, the scientist dude. I would have liked, I think you're right. I just would have liked that to kind of come out. I feel like they could have given Weird Al a little bit more. They could have given George, he could have been a little bit more of a hero rather than just, you know, a victim of circumstance. Something that was really kind of, I always wonder about this is the actor Trinidad Silva, who plays Raul, who hosts the animal show from his apartment. Not sure if either of you know this. While they were making the movie, he was killed in a car crash. Oh, no.
So they only used the footage that they had filmed. But Al has always said that, like, his character was supposed to be a much bigger part in the movie, and they just had to assemble like what they had been able to film, and that's why his character is more of a throwaway character in the movie. But I wonder if, like, it makes me wonder if there were elements of, like, was he supposed to also be a friend of George's that we met in earlier scenes? Yeah. And then when he died, they wrote in the scene where him and his partner are like, did you hire this guy? Because I didn't. Like, they had to, like, kind of find a way to, like, make his scenes make a little bit more sense. But I mean, who knows? Maybe that's another thing that, like, could have been there. And also, like, I don't know. I do get what I think that what my read of the movie is what the intention was, but I agree with you that there probably could have been more scenes to drive that home a little stronger, because it does kind of turn into, from that point on, George is like the behind the scenes guy of everything and not the face of the network. But he could have been like the genius. Like, he's making these shows. The only instance we get of him being, you know, this creative guy who's really helping the station is that one scene with the magnets on the board where he's trying to figure out. No,
he's you missed the scene. So okay, so back up, because you talk about a genius. Like, it's his idea to expand on the popularity of Stanley Spadowski. So, Matt, you explained it one way. I'll explain it another way, probably saying the same thing. But in my mind, it's like, okay, so just this guy we put on the air worked, and he's just a wacky guy. So I know George, I know all these other wacky people in my life. Let's just put them on too and see what happens. And they all seem to work, right? So that's I think right there, it's kind of genius to recognize that and expand on it and take that chance. Also, there was that scene where he had all those note cards and says, I have some other ideas. And that was another thing about him coming up with new shows. So,
because you have to remember, when the ratings come in, RJ's not upset that Stanley Spadowski's Funhouse is on that list. He's upset that their ratings have knocked out all of their shows from the top 5. So, like, Stanley Spadowski might be number 1, but that still means that, like, all of the other shows are also in that top 10. So he had the intelligence to Wheel of Fish, man.
I feel like we have to deep dive this. Like, they don't really, like, point this out to them. Maybe I've only seen the movie a few times, but
it's an inference.
We're discussing it's inferred. Like, this is a silly comedy movie. Like, people are stupid. You got to tell them what you want them to think. And there's just very little of presenting that as him being really like the machine behind the success. I felt like it was just dumb luck, and then he kept it up, and that was that, and that was it.
Sometimes it's all it takes, though.
But I think they presented him as being this, this guy who's got this great imagination, and that's his inherent, good thing about him. That's what makes him great. And they could, I don't know. I'm just
but he's coming up with the concepts to kind of encompass these personalities too. You have to understand that. Like, he come up with Wheel of Fish for the character, and I forget, I had it written down, but what's his name?
Aren't you assuming that? I mean, there's no scene where he's like, "Hey guys, I have these great ideas."
Yeah,
he literally says, "I have some other ideas." He has a bunch of note cards.
And
Says,
Wheel
I have
of
some
Fish
other
was one of
ideas.
them.
And then Wheel of Fish come right after that. So it's like, I have these other ideas, and that's when he brought in these other wacky characters and had these shows. So yeah, I think that kind of solves the issue that you have.
Because then you also see like, what's it, like the cameraman that they hire to film the news show is now like hosting celebrity mud poker or whatever it is. Like, like they keep finding things and using internally. Again, I'm gonna kind of draw a comparison to myself for just a quick second, which is so egotistical and I love it.
It's a humble man.
But it's a lot of like the behind the scenes of Geekscape stuff is like creating shows. Half the time is just being like, this person's really funny. This person's really funny. They like a lot of the same stuff. Let's get them in a room together and like see what magic can come out of that. And like, I like to think that that's what George is essentially doing, is like, this guy who runs this karate studio next door he's really animated. He's really goofy. Imagine if he hosted a game show. Let's throw him into a game show scenario and see what happens, and like see if people connect to it. Like that's nine. I mean, even like I'm gonna say it. I don't think anyone's gonna care. But like, spoiler alert, like Krista Makes didn't create Krista Makes a podcast. Like Chris Fafalios was talking to him and said, you should host a podcast about songwriting. Like that was
Breaking
someone
news.
else being there and saying, you've got a special talent that I don't think you realize you have. And if we do this thing, it could be magic. And I think that that's ultimately what George realizes, is that he doesn't have to be the star of these shows to be the genius behind them. And I think that that's also kind of the implication at the end of the movie, is when he does the Gone with the Wind fantasy, is that he's actually finally willing to let other people into his fantasy world and share it with people that matter, because that was the whole storyline with his girlfriend, is that she felt alienated from his fantasy world. So he's like expanding that and opening that up to other people. Even I guess it begins with the Rambo scene, because up until that point, it's always it's always George in his fantasies with random characters that aren't tied to his life. But when it gets to the Rambo rescue scene, now he's there, and like Stanley's there, and like RJ is there. Like he's pulling in the people in his real life and not filling them with fantastical characters.
Yeah, and I think if I had watched this movie like 20 or 50 times like you guys, I may have because honestly, most of the other movies that we've talked about, I've seen 50 or 100 times over the course of my life. And I know that when you watch a movie multiple times, you pick up a lot of different stuff. The first time I watched this movie, I somehow missed how they won the radio station, how they got the radio station in the poker game. I don't know, I sneezed or something, and I missed that part. I'm like, oh, did somebody die? Like, how did he get to? And then a second time I got it. But, many watches bring extra opinions. So I'm coming from the...
And let this be a lesson to anybody listening. I can say that, and I think I said that I wanted to do this one of these days on your show too. There are many albums, movies, TV shows that I did not like upon first viewing, and then revisiting later said, oh, actually there's a lot here that I think I may have missed, or maybe I listened to it for the first time in a bad mood, or maybe I watched it for the first time and something was just like distracting me and I wasn't paying close enough attention. So don't always write off something the first time you watch it as like the worst thing ever, because you circumstances change the way you enjoy things just as much as the quality of a project sometimes.
Yeah, I feel like I'm pretty good the first time.
Whatever. Pretty Odd is a masterpiece. All right, so moving on.
Pretty Odd. Okay. Let's talk about the characters. So Look, I mean, we talked a little bit about George Newman already. I think we kind of said some things about that character. We didn't necessarily talk a ton about Stanley Spadowski. These aren't very deep characters either. I mean, for the most part, they're just basically who they are, right? So Michael Richards, I'll tell you what, I think he does. So this is pre-Kramer, right? And this
Yeah.
is a young Michael Richards. I think he does a fantastic, just slapstick type of character that he pulls off perfectly. If you think about it, right, you look at his mannerisms. You know, he does all the same stuff, a lot of the same stuff that the Kramer character does, but I don't think it's more of a hey, just do Kramer like we saw in the movie Airheads. It's something a little bit more natural, and it kind of flows a lot better. And I actually really enjoyed this performance much better than the one that I saw in the movie Airheads because of that. I thought he was a lot more charming, likable, and really like, you know, funny, right? I mean,
I think he's
that's probably the most important thing. So
he's really funny in this, but I also would say he's the emotional heart of the movie. Like there are like one or two moments in this movie with Stanley that I actually get a little choked up while watching. And I think it's because Michael Richards plays the character with such a like childlike wonder. So like when they're like something even as silly as like when the thugs at the station are taking his mop, like there is this element of like you genuinely feel bad as you're watching it happen because like especially when he says like that was the mop my dad gave me. Like it's a dumb line, but like there's part of you that's just like this poor dude is just getting the absolute, he's having the worst day of his life, and like this thing is being taken from him that had some element of sentimental value. Like, I don't know. And then when he gives that dumb inspirational speech that's like a parody of Network, like he does a great job of delivering it with like some genuine sincerity, despite he never, I feel like Michael Richards does a great job of walking that line of everything about this is ridiculous and cartoonish and dumb, but I can still play this with heart regardless. And I think it makes you understand very quickly why him hosting a TV show would be such an immediate success.
Steve, did you like this character?
Yeah, so actually, you know, Seinfeld came out July 5th of this year, so I mean, I guess they were probably filmed somewhere around the same time.
Sort of.
Was Kramer not in the pilot, though?
Kramer was, but like the first season of Seinfeld is real weird. It's a 6-part show called The Seinfeld Chronicles, and I think the episodes were aired like months apart from each other. And like, so Seinfeld was not like, even if he was in the pilot of Seinfeld, nobody was like, hey, that's Kramer from Seinfeld. Like,
well, I read that the part was actually written for him. So like they wanted him, probably from stand up.
I was going to say from
Fridays.
Yeah. Fridays was, he was, if you've ever seen Man on the Moon, he was in the sketch that Andy Kaufman
went nuts on. He was
the character that Andy Kaufman splashed the drink on where he freaked out. But that was also apparent. I don't know. Andy Kaufman's a whole weird thing because that could have been planned. It couldn't have been planned. Who knows? We'll never know because everyone keeps the answers to those questions to their chest. But yeah, I think that was his big, if they wrote it specifically for him, it was probably because of his work on Fridays would be my guess.
Most of the movies we've discussed this month have a quote unquote lovable goof. And I think he plays that character to a T. Matt, Chris, you guys are right. I mean, he does have that heart, other than the fact that he's, you know, a little challenged mentally. It just doesn't have, you know, he couldn't hurt a fly. He's just the nicest guy. He's, you know, a little bit aloof. I love when, you know, he becomes this big TV star. So can I still be the janitor? Like, you know, he was born to just be that janitor, and he's happy for it. He's not, you know, negotiating for more money. He's not doing anything. He just, he wants to be happy. He's having fun doing the silly show. He's having fun being the janitor, and he's perfectly cast. Much better character for him in this movie than Chris, like you had said, Airheads. I totally agree. Is it a little Kramerish? Sure, but I guess that's just Michael Richards being slapsticky and jerky, and that's just kind of how he rolls.
Yeah,
Kind
he
of
knows-
funny how they
Just-
kind of like tape his upper lip to make him have buck teeth a little bit, but overall, good cast. Good
I
cast.
mean, even when he's in the closet trying to get that blindfold off with his tongue, like that was pretty funny. Like I thought that
It's-
was great.
So as we're talking about how great of a casting he was, I feel like one of the most, I wouldn't say like bad casting calls, but just forgettable is the David Bowe who plays George's best friend Bob.
Mhm.
He's just kind of like, he's like wallpaper throughout this whole movie. Like he's
It's-
just kind of there. And I can't help but wonder, like, I just feel like Al has so many famous, funny friends who are also good at playing the straight man that I'm like, could there have been literally anyone else to play this role? Not that I think he does a bad job, but I just feel like that part always feels like it could use even the tiniest bit more energy and oomph put into it for his character.
It's actually pronounced Bowie.
Bowie, okay, like David. So he's like David Bowie. He's the other. Maybe they sent the offer to the wrong David Bowie, because I would watch this movie if it was the other David Bowie.
Well, when you
can
put in
imagine that?
when you put in David Bowe or Bowie on IMDb, it says actor UHF. So this might have been the height of his popularity. I'm not sure.
Yeah, he was in Heavyweights and the aforementioned Freaked, but that's both in very small bit roles that I don't remember what characters he played.
Oh, he was also the helicopter paramedic in The Cable Guy and Dr.
Yeah.
Ling in The Rock. How about that?
Could you see David Bowie in that role? Could you see the movie opening at that burger joint with David Bowie being the friend?
Well,
don't think
so here's something that's crazy, because I was like, I feel like I knew that someone else got offered this. Jerry Seinfeld was offered that role of George's best friend, and he turned it down.
That's probably a good move.
Probably a good move, but could you imagine this movie would be even more beloved than it already is if it was also the first time that Jerry Seinfeld and Kramer were in a movie together?
That'd be crazy.
Like,
Well, they really didn't. They didn't write this character really to do anything. I mean,
that's what I mean. I think the character's underwritten, and I think the actor doesn't have a lot to do with it.
Yeah,
I think
nothing.
it's just like we needed a best friend for.
But the thing
For
is, they
what
reason
almost
it doesn't move the plot forward at all.
they
No.
almost totally abandon this character in the second half of the film. He is just in the first half of the film to be the best friend who lives with him or whatever, gets fired with him. You know, they have to find another job. Bash me in the skull. No, you owe me $5. Like literally, after they start doing some of the programming stuff, I feel like he's just out of the movie. Once the what's his name, RJ it kind of becomes the bad guy. Like there's just not much for him. He doesn't do anything.
I mean, I get it if you wanted him. So one of my favorite horror film companies is this film company out of Jersey called Trauma Pictures. And Trauma from day one has been two people. It's been Lloyd Kaufman and his friend from college, Michael Hertz. You'll see Lloyd Kaufman in everything. He'll do anybody's movie. He's like the guy who's the face of the interviews. I could not tell you what Michael Hertz looks like. I know that he's a big part of Lloyd Kaufman's career and like runs the studio, but he's just the silent man behind the scenes. And I feel like maybe that was what they were trying to do with this, is like George is the idea man and Bob's like the business minded guy who keeps the train on the tracks and keeps them from going bankrupt. But this is where I do agree with you, Steve, that there could be a couple more lines of dialogue or scenes to just like establish that relationship a little bit more, because all you really get is occasionally Bob yelling at George about like how much money they're losing, but you don't really get the flip side of that where he's just like, hey, like we've got this much money, like. Yeah, I think there's one scene where he's like,
Or this is like my best friend
shows.
since I'm 5 years old and we're in this together. None of that. He's
like nowhere to be seen during the telethon.
So actually, let's just take a quick break and talk about the station, because they're losing. So basically, the uncle won this station. Yeah, the uncle won this station in a poker game, so he has ownership of it. So, the character of George Newman come in to manage it, but Are we like, was there money? Like, where was the money coming from? Was there an existing bank account for this station that he had access to?
I
He had
wonder
no
if it's
money. He had
like,
no job, right? So where was the funds to run the station at?
yeah, I was gonna say, I wonder if it's like when you win a car on like a, you know, a game show, like you still have to pay for a lot of the elements that come with winning that car. Like you have to pay for the taxes on that car and stuff like that.
I would
Um,
I would have to think that all right, the who was it? His uncle, grandfather, somebody.
it was his uncle Harvey.
Uncle.
Okay, so he won the station in a poker game. If somebody owns a radio station or a TV station and signs it over to somebody else, that includes things like payroll and something like that. And originally, the uncle wants to just dump it. He tells his wife, "I'm just going to dump this," and she says, "No, we're going to have George manage it." I would think that there is a little bit of money that either is in those bank accounts or the uncle is funding to keep it running, because it only seems like it's a few weeks before shit hits the fan, right?
I'm willing to bet that it was a situation where if George chose to just set it and forget it, it would like make enough to maybe just basically break even. You know what I mean? Like it seemed like it was set. They just had, you know, essentially public domain syndication shows on a loop. It seems like it's a shack that literally just has one guy who very weirdly lives there and keeps things on. And it's like all that George would have had to do was just leave it alone. And like it would have been just a fine situation. But as soon as George starts creating his own shows, it starts adding costs that weren't already built into the circumstance. And that's where they start to be like, oh, we need to start making money now or we're going to lose this station.
Chris wants to see the balance sheet. Show him the balance sheet.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that one, the lone individual that weirdly lives there. So Philo is the guy's name, and he is a quirky, enigmatic engineer at the UHF station. But as we find out later, spoiler, that this is also an alien. Why would an alien choose to come to Earth and do that? And really, because he did not know as an alien that eventually this UHF station was going to be popular. Was he just intending to stay at the station and play reruns of Mr. Ed and do science experiments, I guess,
I think that he, as an alien, as I know from watching the cinematic masterpiece Coneheads, when you come to this Earth, this planet, you need a job. You need to have some sort of paycheck to fund whatever you're doing. So he's probably some sort of research alien that was doing some, studies on the Earth and the people, but he needed a paycheck. So that's why he worked there. Boom.
And
solved.
Let's not also bury the lead that, he's not familiar to probably the three of us. At the time of this movie coming out, he's probably the most prolific and famous actor to show up in the movie because it's played by Anthony Geary, who won 8 daytime Emmys for him being the lead in General Hospital throughout all of the 70s.
I did not
shows
know
up in this Weird Al movie to play an alien engineer that has like 10 lines of dialogue.
An alien felon who implants a video recording device in somebody else's building. Like, that is not cool by any
Listen,
means.
it worked in Porky's. It worked in Revenge of the Nerds. There's no laws against this.
I'm not saying it didn't work. I'm just saying it is not legal.
Define work, but what so yeah, how would he end up getting into that building? I guess he's an alien. He can do whatever he wants. But so that's interesting about Anthony Geary. That's a lot of accolades. And to me, that's only second to the next actor that I'd like for us to talk about, and that's Billy Barty. I'll tell you what, you talk about pulling at your heartstrings. He has the one scene that really choked me up, is where he got tripped and he really hurt his arm really bad and didn't get up, right? So I felt really bad for him there.
He got a bruised arm. And so the thing with him that is extremely important to knowing Al stuff is that Al has said on the record, actually very recently has said on the record, that one of the biggest influences on all of his music is the music of Spike Jones from the 50s. Billy Bartley was a member of Spike Jones's band. And are either of you familiar with anything with Spike Jones, real quick?
Yeah, he did the sabotage thing.
Okay, different Spike Jones. So Spike Jones in the 30s and 40s was the Weird Al of the 30s and 40s. So what he would do is he had this giant orchestra behind him that played very weird instruments. Like they would play like washboards and like beer bottles, and he would conduct the band with a handgun that he would fire in the air 3 times to set the tempo for the songs.
Okay.
And they would take popular radio ballads and speed them up and make them wacky and change the lyrics and make them goofy. And they wrote like in the middle of World War II, they would write like very cutting anti-Nazi propaganda songs. And like they were just very edgy for 30s and 40s music. And that is what Al's like biggest Dr. Demento inspiration is. So it makes a ton of sense that he would hire one of the regular people from Spike Jones's live band to have a bit part in this movie. And he's a pretty big staple of like the 70s. He was part of the Sid and Marty Krofft team. So he worked on a lot of those shows like HR Puffin stuff and Sigmund and the Sea Monsters that were, you know, basically just like acid trips on television for children. But he was also an activist, and he is the founder of the Little People of America organization, fighting for the rights of people with all types of things like dwarfism. So
he was in a lot of movies too, wasn't he? In the
yeah,
80s, definitely. 80s
he's
and
a
90s.
he's a badass man. He's bad.
I felt so bad for him. Like they made that scraped elbow just like look so painful. I
He
didn't
also
like it.
here we go. Throwback to horror movie night. He also played Rumpelstiltskin. Oh no, wait, that's a real Rumpelstiltskin movie. Okay, I thought it was the horror movie one. He played Rumpelstiltskin in a 1980s Rumpelstiltskin movie as well. I thought he was the 1997 horror film Rumpelstiltskin.
He didn't have a part in Tangled, is what you're saying?
No, sadly not.
Oh, well.
I mean, it's worth mentioning. The cast in this movie is filled with a lot of noteworthy names, and many of them before they were noteworthy names. Because that would be the case with Al's girlfriend. Well, Victoria Jackson would have been on SNL by now, but his secretary / on-air reporter, before the nanny, Fran Drescher, is also in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
I liked Victoria Jackson a lot, and I think one of the things that was great about her character is that she was like really not. We just did Airheads last week. She was not the like wet blanket girlfriend. Like he was just a dick to her and ignored her, and she just responded by dumping him. And eventually she kind of came around and came back to him, but she wasn't like, you're a shithead, you can't achieve your dreams, you suck. Like she just wanted him to be there for her birthday.
Yeah,
I think that was
with her parents. You know what I mean? Like it's an extra double whammy when you're stood up
that
while
he
you're
promised.
on a. Yeah, like it's not great. He's a bad boyfriend in this movie. It's plain as day.
Well, no, he was working late. There's nothing he could have done about it. That's not
He
fair.
fell asleep thinking about the Beverly Hillbillies.
That was before that. That was a different time. How about the dress she was wearing at that dinner? That was a really nice one, huh?
Yeah.
She might have been a little overdressed, but she was very polite. She wanted to wait for him.
I like Victoria Jackson. I do. Like I always enjoyed what she did. So
yeah, she so Al in real life did date her very briefly.
Oh, did he?
And then also, the story as it's told is that Al wanted to do Smells Like Nirvana, could not get in touch with anybody at the record label to get the approval. And when he saw that Nirvana was the musical guest on SNL, it was Victoria Jackson that he called and said, "Could you please get Kurt on the phone for me?" And she's the one that connected the two of them so that he could get the okay to do Smells Like Nirvana. So beyond this movie, they had a friendship and I guess he said a very brief relationship between them meeting the people that they ended up marrying.
Is approval? I got to ask the Al expert here. Is approval necessary for him to do a parody?
Ask Coolio.
Technically, no. He chooses to do so.
Okay.
So there was the big Amish Paradise controversy was that Al was told by the record label that Coolio approved of the parody. So he went forward with it. and then found out after the fact that they had never ran it past him, and Coolio was very upset about it. So from that point on, Al would not do a parody until the artist directly told him yes and gave him thumbs up. Now, Smells Like Nirvana is an interesting one because out of all of the songs that Al has done, Smells Like Nirvana is probably the biggest one where he does not need anybody's permission to do that parody. Like, he has to pay for the song likeness, but like, by the strongest definition of fair use, parody is using something to commentate on that thing. And Smells Like Nirvana is the biggest example of him literally taking the song Smells Like Teen Spirit and making a commentary about the band that sings that song. So in a legal law kind of way, he never needed to get anybody's permission to do that song. He would have been absolutely in his legal right to do so. But Al is an all-around good, nice guy who just wants to make sure that as being the comedy guy, he also doesn't want to be creating enemies in the music industry for the sake of a joke. He wants to make sure that everyone's on the same page about stuff. Look up, if you're ever bored, look up his never released song, It's Still Billy Joel to Me, which is possibly the meanest song he's ever written. And it was in the late 70s when he was on Dr. Demento, and it was the song It's Still Rock and Roll to Me. But the lyrics were about how lazy and boring Billy Joel's music is and how he should be ashamed of himself. And obviously when he got signed, he's like, I don't feel like sending these lyrics to Billy Joel and asking if he approves of them. So we're just never going to record this.
I want to listen to that. Actually, that'd be
You can find some live versions of it. There's just no like studio version of it.
So are there any scenes that you guys think were standouts in this movie? I obviously like save your favorite stuff.
Okay.
Hint for later, but what are some standout scenes?
I actually think it's a real bummer that the actor who played Raul passed away so early because, you know, he's only on camera for 3 or 4 scenes, but I think that every scene that he's in, he just steals it. He steals those scenes when he's like this manic child running through his apartment, just like, it's almost like he's playing like an 8-year-old boy who wants to show you all of his toys. Like he's just like, and here's my turtles, and look at what you can do with the turtles, and here's like where these ants are, and let's see if these dogs can fly. Like he's just crazy, and it's I think that those are kind of the more iconic standout moments. But I truly love those scenes.
Did you do the dogs can fly scene in 2024? I feel like you can't.
Oh, I especially the wide shot of the pile of dead dogs.
Pile of dogs at the bottom. And then where's that badge? I never knew where that badger joke was from. Is that from something else?
It's from an old movie of the 60s. I'm trying to remember the exact film. I want to say it's Cool Hand Luke, but I don't think that it's that. But it's in that vein. I'm looking it up now. The badges. Badges, we don't need no stinking badges, is from the treasure of Serena oh my God. From the treasure of Soria Madrid. I think I'm not saying this name correctly, but it's one of AFI's like 100 greatest movies of all time, one of the greatest movie quotes of all time. It's definitely been parodied in a bunch of stuff. I think Blazing Saddles and The Monkees were the 2 earliest examples of people making a reference to it. But yeah, it's a film from the 40s.
Got it. Steve, what about you? Any standouts?
Well, again, I think if you're going to go standout scenes by definition, it's going to be scenes that viewers remember the most, which I think are going to be, you know, your Indiana Jones parody, your Rambo parody, the Spatula City commercial, I think is one that is easy to remember, and probably, you know, the telethon at the end. But a couple of standouts that were just smaller little jokes thrown in there. I love the Close Encounters of the Third Kind little thing with the mashed potatoes right in the beginning. I thought that was hilarious. I got it. And I love the blind guy doing the Rubik's Cube on the bench, just asking the guy next to him if he had it right, and him just saying nope over and over.
And then he would just
over.
keep twist it exactly once and ask him again. Oh, that's such a good joke.
And those last two, not standouts, but I think they were great. They were great small scenes that stand out a bit.
So there's a couple that I really, really, really like that I'm going to save But I'll tell you what, like stand out for me. I know you said it was tacked on, but I really, and it's not really a scene, I guess. If this is cheating, I don't care. It's the Beverly Hill, it's the Money for Nothing video, and I'll tell you what, just and this is more tied to nostalgia than anything. Like as a kid, that Dire Straits video was always one that I really liked a lot because I don't know, it was just different. It was cool. It was it was kind of like computeristic. It was futuristic for the time, and then they took that and made it into the Beverly Hillbillies, and I never got a bigger kick out of something than when I saw that. So I just I really like that overall, and I thought honestly, like even though that wasn't necessarily something that maybe fit into the movie totally, it's definitely something that stood out to me as something really cool. And I think that video, then they played that on MTV a lot, right? That was a
Yeah.
hit
So
that came from here.
So a crazy thing about that song, as I'm here as the Weird Al podcast expert, is that the original intention was not supposed to be money for nothing. So the original intention when Al was pitching this was he actually wanted it to be a mashup of Prince's "Let's Go Crazy" with the Beverly Hillbillies theme song, which I don't know how that would work. Like this one seems to fit so perfectly.
This is perfect.
Yeah.
But this was also one of the most contentious parodies that Al's ever had to deal with because he had to deal with the ego of Dire Straits. Do you know what the official song title is for this parody?
At one point in time, yes, but not now.
The full official title is "Money for Nothing / Beverly Hillbillies asterisk." And the reason was Al commented on the legal complications of the titling of the song on the commentary track for UHF, explaining that we had to name the song "Money for Nothing / Beverly Hillbillies asterisk" because lawyers told us that had to be the name. The explanation was that it was an incredibly stupid name that the lawyers insisted that the parody be. Not sure why, but it's believed that the guitarist for Dire Straits, Mark Knopfler, insisted that the song still remain "Money for Nothing." He also insisted that only he could play the guitar lead. It's the one time that the guitarist of the original song plays on the parody song, is that he would not let Al's guitarist play the guitar lead.
That's
And
a fun fact.
Yeah, and that legally they had to add Beverly Hillbillies because it's the lyrics to it's a cover essentially of Beverly Hillbillies. So they had to include that. And then the asterisk, I think, was just to be like, Al does not own any of this. And then just a very, very quick fun fact about Sting, since we're talking about this money for nothing thing. Do you know that most of the money that Sting makes is from the song "Money for Nothing" and from, well, up until I'm sure pretty recently, Diddy's "I'll Be Missing You." He gets copyrights for the police sample. He gets 100% of the royalty money for "I'll Be Missing You," because Puff Daddy didn't ask for permission to sample it. So when he sued him, he got 100% of the rights to that. So anytime that's used in anything, all the money goes to Sting instead of Puff Daddy. So you can keep listening to that song, everybody. But then the Police were recording an album in the same studio space where Dire Straits was recording the album Brothers in Arms. And they were talking to each other, and he said, "You should sing the hook to our song. Like, you should sing something on our song." So Sting went in there and he said, "What should I sing?" And he said, "You should sing I Want My MTV." And Sting, being the fucking weird snake that he is, sang the I want my MTV" to the exact melody of the Police song "Don't Stand So Close to Me," so that he legally had a writing credit on the song.
Wow.
For writing a melodic part to the song, and they had to pay him royalty money for the rest of time for that song.
But didn't Diddy and Sting perform that together? You think so? There's no bad blood then. Like
There's
they
no
were
bad
just
blood, but yeah, he gets all. I think someone literally, I think it was like a quote from him. Sting loves talking about how much money he makes on that song, because I think he literally says he makes close to like $1 million a month on the song "I'll Be Missing You" that he had nothing to do with.
Well,
He's got a good lawyer.
He knows what he's doing. He got that. He may have been where the asterisk came from in that song naming convention.
All right, guys, before we move on, I have a little
Yes.
game. I have a little game that I want you guys to play, if that's okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
All right. So, from the internets, I grabbed, let's see, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I have 9 titles that were either on the UHF station. I guess they were shows on UHF that they showed. Why don't you guys go back and forth one at a time and try and name a title, and let's see if we can get all the ones that are on my list, which I don't know if it's an official list or not, but I got a bunch here. So, Matt, we'll start with you. What shows can you remember that were on the UHF channel?
I mean, we've said this one like 20 times, so let's start with an easy one. Wheel of Fish.
Wheel of Fish. Yes, I have that one.
Okay, I'll do the softball too. Stanley Spadowski's Clubhouse.
Okay. Does the other version of that, is it the same one or is that a separate one?
It would be Uncle Nutso's Funhouse if it's on there twice.
Okay. We're just going to cross off Uncle Nutsy's Clubhouse. So,
Yeah.
Matt, we'll go back to you then.
I'm trying to remember if this is the exact. I think
I'm going to give it to you if
Geraldo-
it's close.
the Geraldo show that he hosts, I believe, is called like Town Talk or something.
Town Talk with George. Yes. Accepted. Accepted.
Oh, okay, so this is probably my favorite show of all of them, and that's Conan the Librarian because of the guys.
Does that count? Is that on that list? Because that's technically a movie, not a show.
It's a
Conan
show.
the Librarian is on my list. I don't know.
Oh,
what
it's on the
hell it
list.
is.
All right. Well, then I'm going to say Gandhi 2.
Gandhi 2 is also on the list. There's a couple extra ones left. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4 left. Chris, any memory of another show or movie? I don't know what's on you.
I'm sorry. How about? Did you say Raoul's Wild Kingdom already?
That is correct. That is on my list. Raoul's Wild Kingdom. We're down to
Celebrity
3.
mud wrestling.
Well, that's not on here, but I think I remember it.
Yeah,
So
because Gorbachev is the guest on it.
So fuck it, I'm giving it to you.
What was that one car guy? Oh yeah, Bowling for Burgers.
Bowling for Burgers is on the list.
Burgers.
Guys are doing great. 2 left, at least.
You
that I can
mentioned the
see.
car guy. I don't think Crazy Ernie would be on there because I think that was just a commercial.
That wasn't
I do
him?
not have
I thought it was
commercials
him.
on here.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It was
There were
Crazy
some
Ernie's
great
car lot.
commercials.
Yeah. Oh God, because the Grave Plots Are Us one is also equally hilarious and often forgotten.
That makes me think of I Think You Should Leave and
Yes.
Coffin
Oh,
Flop.
Coffin Flop. Okay, I'm trying to think. Stalling. There's something else. I'm trying to think of when they're putting the shows on the board. There's like 2 other shows that they name, and I'm completely blanking on them. So I think I'm going to give this. If Chris can name one more, he seals the deal here because I'm tapped out.
You got one?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
because we talked about Philo, Secrets of the Universe.
Secrets of the Universe is there.
Secrets of the Universe with Philo. Fuck. What was the other one?
Chris wins. This was the only other one I have is called Practical Jokes and Bloopers.
That's right. It's the camera guy trips the person as
You
they're
know which
walking out
one
of.
you were thinking of, Matt? Is Name That Stain? Wasn't that on the
Name-
board?
Yeah, it's on the board. Name that stain.
There was also something about phlegm, the wonderful
Yes.
world of phlegm.
The
I don't know what
Wonderful
it
World
was.
of Phlegm. He's like, I
Yeah.
think we should move the Wonderful World of Phlegm to 7:00 or something. It's I would love a station like this. Like I think of at its peak, there was a point where in my apartment we never had any channel on our television except for G4 because it was just crazy show after crazy show for 24 straight hours. Or like back in the day in high school when I would never not have Comedy Central on because it was just something funny and weird and different was on there. I miss television like
Dude,
this.
you guys fucking killed that little mini game. Good job. Good
Well,
job.
I just watched the movie this week too, so I mean,
Still, I
couple
mean,
times.
that was like what,
Yeah.
9? How many did I say? That was a lot.
Yeah,
You got him.
I went in blind, essentially. I was like, I've seen this movie a million times. I can talk about this in my sleep. I didn't think I was going to have to remember every TV show that was in. Though.
So we've been pretty positive about this movie. Anything that you guys would have changed or just made different if you had the chance to?
I think just the two things I said. I would have added a fantasy scene to kind of make George's aha moments a little bit clearer. And I would have maybe either beefed up the character of Bob or like recasted the character of Bob. But I got zero notes on this movie. I still think this movie is just a comedic masterpiece. And as was Al's follow, I guess more appropriate for music, your music month would have actually been
The Weird movie.
Weird the Al Yankovic story. But I mean, talk about after taking a 20-year break from filmmaking, just coming back and hitting another one, just clear out of the park a second time.
Did he make that film?
He co-wrote that one. He wrote it similar to how Jay Levy directed this one, but Al wrote it. He wrote the Al Yankovic story.
In terms of things I would have changed, I already kind of said my whole piece on how I would have liked George to be the person to inspire the change, or to have him really, kind of tell the audience like, this is what we were doing. Other than that, I think maybe the first half of the movie kind of goes along a little slowly. It takes a little while to get to the actual plot, but that's because there's all the silliness kind of built in and around. But overall, I think that's probably about it. I think, what else? I think maybe if they were only $2,000 away, if they gave if there was a guy like a bookie who you owed $75,000 to in 2 days, and you were like, hey, I have $73,000. Like,
yeah,
maybe you could have worked out one more day or 2 more days. But I'm just nitpicking.
Did he seriously bet $75,000 on horses?
Well, that's the other thing. Is it this bookie that's on the other line? The first call is that, hey, you won money on the ponies today. And he's like, oh, great. Okay. And then he goes back to his poker game. And then there's another call that he lost money. And he was so surprised that it was $75,000. Like, if you had wagered $75,000, wouldn't you have fucking known?
Yeah,
that,
you would have remembered that you put that big of a bet out there.
Or gone to OTB to watch the race, or looked in the paper or something. Again, we're just nitpicking little things, but yes, that was a little out there.
At 75,000 in 1989 was a lot more than it is today, right?
I think you could buy a house for $20,000 in 1989.
Yeah, that's a lot of money.
Yeah,
it's a lot of betting. Yeah, but I'm
gonna do a very quick Google. I want to see now what $75,000 in 1989 costs today.
He had a pool, so obviously he was rich. Does that represent wealth in this movie? Is he had a pool?
I guess in the movies that gives off wealth. I know people that have pools that are at least they're well off. They're not poor, but they're not filthy rich. But yeah, he seemed to be filthy rich.
Well, again, this is just some random thing on the internet, but it says that $75,000 in 1989 is worth $189,645.97 today.
I tend to think that's low, but I'm not thinking that from any, point of, real brain power or anything like that.
That's a lot of money to raise.
It's still a lot of money to raise in 2 days.
Also, where does the movie take place, by the way? What is the setting? Is there a city? Do we know?
I would guess just general California outskirts.
Yeah, they don't say.
I was just trying to think of so they needed to sell 7,500 shares of stock for $10 each. So what market are we in? I guess we're to believe that the station is it nationwide? Is it regional? So is it feasible to get 7,500 people? I guess it probably is if it took off.
Let's ask this question. You live in the town where this channel exists. You're buying a couple shares, right? For $10 a pop for this station?
$10, yeah.
If I enjoy the wonderful world of phlegm, then yes, I would.
Yeah,
I would buy 3
no?
shares personally. Yeah. I have $30.
But
$10,
$10 was more like what, like $30 or $40 back in 1989, right?
Sure.
Or am I going at the high end? Okay.
That tracks to me. I don't know.
I mean, I know that because I always asked for more quarters to play the video games, the arcade games. And that was always a problem when I asked my parents for more money. I was like, but there's this high school kid that comes in with like rolls and rolls of quarters. How come I can't have that?
Yeah.
And they wouldn't answer me. So, it's crazy.
Noah's
So
Arcade making a lot of bank.
I don't think that I would have changed anything at all. I thoroughly enjoyed everything this movie was, and I don't care if it's nostalgia. I just watched it again, and it was just as fun for me this time around. So I would
I'd
say,
actually, you know what, Chris, I'm going to say I would add 10 more minutes of just more fake movie trailers and commercials because I just love those things. We haven't even really talked about some of those. I'm assuming we're saving that for our favorite parts segment.
we are,
I know I held a couple big ones that I want to talk about.
we are, and here's the thing: like you think about shows today that I get into, and a lot of those shows are comedy that do that similar type of thing. They have just random things that are popped in there that are just so weird and off the wall. Like I enjoyed a lot of Tim and Eric stuff. Even stuff on, in the first couple seasons of Rick and Morty where they did interdimensional cable, where they just did random like snippets of TV shows. Probably, it's same thing with I think you should leave. Am I saying that right?
Yeah. That's
It's
my
just
jam.
skits that are just random nonsense humor. And, they're smart, but they're random nonsense. This is the same thing, in a way, right? It's out of nowhere. It's just boom, plopped into the middle of the movie. It has context and it's supposed to be there because it's a show, but it's just nonsensical and it's so funny. And I love that so much. I love that so much. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why I was so attracted to this movie. So
All right.
yes, so give me more of that. Did we already talk about the music here? I think you guys had some less than stellar things to say about the soundtrack. If I'm not
I
mistaken.
didn't like the actual physical soundtrack that they put out, which was called it's got a really long dumb title. Hold on a second. It's like UHF and a bunch of other stuff or something. Like because there's only the okay, here it is. It was
They didn't
UHF,
spend a
the
lot of money
original
on the
the original
soundtrack.
motion picture soundtrack as well as other stuff is the full title of the soundtrack to the movie. Um I like I like the songs that are in this movie. I don't like the songs that aren't in this movie that are on the soundtrack. So I love the Al original "Let Me Be Your Hog" that plays for 10 seconds when Uncle Harvey's chilling in the pool having a little dance party for himself. And currently on the podcast, the UHF theme song is listed as my number one favorite Al Yankovic original song. So I am a big fan of that particular song.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Steve,
I didn't feel there was a lot of, musical influence in the movie itself. I didn't really pay too much of attention to the music. I'm looking at the track list. It seems to just be a lot of Weird Al stuff. I think, the biggest ball of twine in Minnesota that was on the
It's not in the
soundtrack?
movie, but on the soundtrack. Yeah.
Okay. I like that song. So that's all.
Yeah.
I'll say.
Basically, the songs out of 13 songs on the soundtrack, the songs that do in fact appear in the movie are Money for Nothing / Beverly Hillbillies, the audio from Gandhi 2, the song UHF, Let Me Be Your Hog, the Spatula City audio, and the song Fun Zone. Fun Zone is what plays as the theme song to like Stanley Spigalski's Fun House when it's like
okay. Yeah. There was no
Which-
other. Was there any other parodies on the soundtrack? Because I didn't.
Yes. So he did a song called Isle Thing that was a parody of Wild Thing by Tone Loc about being obsessed with watching the show Gilligan's Island. One of the more uninspired parodies he's ever did was he took Fine Young Cannibals, She Drives Me Crazy, and made it She Drives Like Crazy. And probably the most famous of the parodies on this album is Spam, which is his parody of REM's Stand. As a spam in the place where I live, ham and pork.
Keep going.
That's amazing.
It also has one of my least favorite parodies or polkas that he ever did, which is an all Rolling Stones polka medley because I don't like the Rolling Stones, so I barely know half the songs that he's singing in that polka medley. So like I said, this one was just kind of destined to not hit for me as strong, but Biggest Ball in Twine in Minnesota is a great original from Al as well.
Okay. Very good. I think you guys covered it. I don't have much more to say there. So I think we kind of just go to our last segment here. We've been waiting for it. Let's be honest with each other. We've held some things back. We have some things to say. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is Ranking It. This is where we rank our favorite stuff tied to the subject matter of the day. And of course, we're talking about the movie UHF, Weird Al Yankovic. And as we've been doing in Movie May, this is not our traditional Ranking It. We do something a little bit different this month. So, Matt, what we're going to do today is we're going to ask you and obviously ask ourselves to give our favorite scene, our favorite song, our favorite quote, and then give the film an overall score of 1 to 10, 1 being the worst, 10 being the best. So, guests are always first. Matt, why don't you go ahead and take it away?
I think we're all gonna be pretty close to the same thing on the favorite scene. If I had to make a guess, I could be wrong here. I have loved the Conan the Librarian sequence in this movie so much. It's actually a bit of a contentious thing. So this movie, whether you checked or didn't check to see, is a PG-13 film, which is a rating that Al has disagreed with from day one. He thought that he made a PG movie. He thinks that it deserves to be a PG movie. And the only reason it had a PG-13 rating is that he refused to cut the Conan the Librarian scene, which is what the MPAA was asking him to cut to give him a PG. Because he's just like, it has no blood in it. It's stupid. It's fun. It's cartoonish. It was that scene and the town talk where the guy cuts his thumb off were the two things that the MPA said he had to remove to get a PG rating. And they're both great scenes, but Conan the Librarian, I mean, I'm going to skip ahead to favorite quote because that's also in that scene, which is, of course, don't you know the Dewey Decimal System? He's holding the guy up by his shirt. It's so perfectly delivered. It's great. That whole sequence. That's my pick for best sequence.
Okay. Favorite song. Do you have one?
UHF, the theme song UHF. It's
all right.
It's a great song and it's a good music video. Go check out the music video. It's filled with lots of great clips.
And then give it a number score, 1 to 10. We will take decimals if you want.
Like a 9.98.
Okay. Okay. So that means that there isn't very much better than there's not much better in your mind than this movie.
No, and like following along on your Facebook and seeing the other films that you guys have covered this month, this would be my number one pick of all the movies you talked about this month. And this is a man who loves Airheads. He loves Wayne's World. This is the number one for the month of May's Movie May.
Cool. Well, that's awesome. Steve, why don't you go ahead and do yours?
Well, I hate to disagree with you, but I have totally different ones. All of them are totally different, Matt.
All right.
All right. I think my favorite scene, to be honest, I love Spatula City. I thought that was a great little spoof commercial. But I think the thing that makes me laugh the most, so I'll give it my favorite scene, is when George first is doing his kids show and he comes in like really excited and he talks to the little kid and the little kid just fucking spits in his face. Like that makes me laugh. Like he this kid spits in his face. So I'm going to give spitting in Weird Al's face my favorite scene. Again, it doesn't fit the mold in terms of like a music movie totally. I'll just give my favorite song, I guess, to the Beverly Hillbillies because they play the video and it's a fun song. So I don't think there was a great catalog to choose from. If I were to look at the soundtrack, the Biggest Ball of Twine in Minnesota is without a doubt my favorite, one of my maybe one or two favorite Weird Al songs of all time. So I would give that to that. But in the movie itself, I would say Beverly Hillbillies, I guess. I'm going to go, my favorite quote is when George gets dumped and he goes back onto his show and he's all sad and he's like, we'll forget about how miserable we are and how much life sucks and how we're all going to grow old and die someday. And it goes on further and further. But I'll take Weird Al, who's normally such a ball of energy and happy, just being sad and depressed and putting these kids and the audience in real life's shoes. And I didn't not enjoy this movie. I think it was totally fine, but I'm like, I don't know. I'm a big fan of parody movies, and I've seen this movie like 2 or 3 times. I'm gonna give it a 5.5. It wasn't terrible that I didn't like it, but I couldn't say that it's one of my favorite parody movies. Again, if I had watched this in 1992 and watched it like 20 times or 40 times or 50 times, like I've watched Spaceballs or Airplane or Robin Hood Men in Tights, like I would most likely have a better opinion of it. But it's better than middle of the road, but it wasn't like, oh my God, I have to watch this every time I see it on TV or streaming or something like that. So I'm going to give it a little better than average. And usually Chris is the negative one. So I'm just, for this episode, I'll take the negative guy.
Oh, I saw Chris have an actual visceral reaction to that rating.
Well, he gave That Thing You Do like a fucking 4.12 or something. And I was like 10,
you like
11.
To watch, okay, so I don't like to listen to the same song 16,000 times in a movie. Is that what is that something you enjoy?
I like to do That Thing I Do, yes.
Yeah.
All right, Chris.
All right, listen. So, favorite scene. I'm going to give an honorable mention really quick to the scene with the woodshop guy, because that was really funny. That guy, I don't know who that actor was.
Emo Phillips. Phillips.
Okay, that's right. It was. Okay, yeah. So he
got paid 30 cents for that scene. He has the check still.
Wow.
You don't know, like a younger me laughed so hard to that. It was ridiculous, and would go to school and like just do that. Anyway, so but that was an honorable mention, because and number one is going back to Uncle Nutso. There is no beating Uncle Nutso. Like, this is the best. And Steve, you kind of stole the thunder a little bit, but that kind of led into, so the spit in the face was laugh out loud funny, but even funnier was Bobo the Clown, because Bobo the Clown getting smashed in the face with a frying pan for real, and then coming back and then being told that he had to eat these butter treats, which were actually dog treats, and then Weird Al just kept shoving them in his mouth one after another.
Did he say they were liver flavored too?
Yeah,
that's not even like a neutral dog treat flavor.
Also, Al hit the actor in real life so hard with the frying pan that they had to stop filming to take him to the hospital.
Oh shit. I've never seen Chris laugh this much.
I don't know. It's so funny. But the joke wasn't even like the liver flavor. It was when he was shoving them into his mouth. I don't know. It was just so funny. But anyway, so that's my number one scene in this movie. I could probably name 15 different scenes in this movie. That's number one. Favorite songs, Beverly Hillbillies. We already talked about it. Favorite quote, man, there's just so many. I don't know. I always remember quoting that this community means about as much to me as a festering bowl of dog snot. Like, I don't know why that one just kind of stuck out to me, but it's funny. That guy was such an over the top villain voice. Like, he obviously was on purpose, but that particular line, I just remember just saying it so much. So maybe we'll just go with that as my number one quote. And then this movie is I'm just going to say 9.9. Like 9.9. This is just short of perfection in my mind.
I have a question for both of you real quick. Have either of you seen Weird Al live before in your life?
No, I would love to. There was a tour that was a few years ago that I wanted to catch, and one of my best friends caught it. It was the one where he did all of the non-covers, all of the originals.
The ridiculously self-indulgent, ill-advised vanity tour. Yeah.
I think I have not, but I would not be opposed. Anytime that he would come to my city, hypothetically in the future, I would look at the date, and if I could make it, I would consider going. But I have not.
I can't remember. I swear that I did, and if so, I can't remember it. it probably was around this time of my life when I was much younger. Like it might have been early 90s that I got a chance to go see him, but I just can't remember.
Okay, so I've only seen him once, which is kind of embarrassing for a guy who hosts a podcast about Weird Al. But I saw him in LA during the brief period of time where I lived in LA. I got free tickets from my friend Frank. And it just a fun little button on that story. Frank and I were there. We were both people in LA struggling to be a writer. I came back to Philadelphia to make podcasts, and Frank co-created the new version of DuckTales that was like a national phenomenon. So Frank's doing great. But Frank got 2 tickets for him and his wife to see Weird Al, and then she got sick that day and texted me and was like, would you like to go see Weird Al for free with me? I just don't want to go by myself. So I got to see a free Weird Al show. But I'm bringing this up because I don't know if this is still the case, because he's been doing a lot more of the original songs and less of the costumes. But to fill time, because a Weird Al show is like 3.5 hours of just Al, no opening act. But he does all these costume changes. So in the costume changes, they would have TV screens playing clips from like Al TV and UHF. And the 2 biggest things that stuck out in my mind from UHF during that was that they would play the Wheel of Fish scene. And it was so fun because you're in a crowd of Al super fans. So like when he's like, do you want this red snapper or what's in the box? The whole crowd is like different people yelling like the snapper, and other people are like, get the box. But like, it's like interactive, like a Rocky Horror Picture Show screening. But the other big one, which I guess should theoretically be a quote, I maybe should have picked this over the Dewey Decimal System, is the you get to drink from the fire hose scene of Stanley's TV show. The crowd yelling that entire scene's dialogue in unison is just like, it makes you realize what Al did as a performer and what this movie does. Whether it's as successful as Steve thinks it should be, it still made a bunch of weird outcasts and strange folk feel like they had this one person that made them feel like you can be as strange as you want to be and everything's going to be okay. And like, you feel that when these people are all quoting this movie like it's the Rocky Horror Picture Show, waiting for Al to come out in some new costume and perform a couple songs in his new like stage attire. So highly recommend. I am right there with you, Steve. Maybe we should try to synchronize next time he's in the Philly area and go see Weird Al together.
You're like relatively around the corner, so absolutely.
Yeah, so let's make that happen.
Cool, man. And listen, guys, everybody listening, this is the end of Movie May. We actually had 5 Thursdays in May, so we had more than normal. And if y'all out there liked listening to us talk about movies, then maybe we'll bring it back next May. In the meantime, Matt, thank you so much for joining us. We had a blast with you talking about Weird Al, talking about UHF. We had a blast on Movie May. Chris, Matt, tell us. I mean, it would probably take another hour if you told us all of your podcasts, but give the high level overview of the places where people should find you, listen to you, and the stuff you're doing.
I think the easiest way is for me to just run through the week calendar. On Mondays is Christmas 365. Me and my buddy Dylan discuss something Christmassy once a week. On Tuesdays is YAOK, which is a podcast about young adult novels hosted by my friend Eric J. Brown, who is a young adult author, and my friend Alyssa Lube from The Circle Season 4. On Wednesdays is One Hit Thunder, which is my one hit wonder podcast with punchline bassist Chris Fafalios. Thursdays is when you can get Horror Movie Night, which is my horror podcast with me and my buddy Scott and Kyle. And Fridays is the one that most pertains to UHF. It is Weird Algorithm, a podcast in which me and Matt Milligan from Wheatus break down Al's entire career, one song or TV appearance at a time, and sadly coming to its conclusion in a couple weeks, White People Problems, an OC recap podcast in which my friend Joe Farron has made me watch the entirety of the series, The OC. We're about to enter the 4th and final season. So 16 more episodes, and then that podcast will be no more. So that's what I got going on.
R.I.P. to that one.
Yeah.
Steve, you made me watch Big Brother one time. We should have done a podcast about that show.
Well, we had one of the stars of Big Brother on our show, and I think
No.
I didn't make you watch it, but I think both of us just wanted to see him on the show. But Matt Kelly is my Circle brother, as you say. We every time a season of The Circle comes out.
Oh, we're texting.
Yeah, I was like, the day that I texted him about this, I was like, "Hey, sorry to interrupt you watching the finale of The Circle," and his response was, "Are you kidding? I've already seen the finale of The Circle." Like, okay.
I
calm down.
woke up at 5 a.m. and put it on. I was like, all right, let's see who won this. And I will say, I'm not going to spoil it for anybody. I think this is the first year I actually approve of who actually won the season of The Circle. Usually it's the person I didn't like who wins it.
The Circle is a guilty pleasure reality show that is the stupidest, most bullshit, but then it does have some like heartfelt stuff. So
It truly does. Yeah. And hey, I mean, I'm slightly biased because I'm friends with like 5 contestants now, thanks to my weird connections to season 4. But I think it's great. Everyone should watch The Circle. It's
I'll
a
keep
good
watching
show.
it.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is.
It's a fun little like social media game show concept. Imagine if you were locked in an apartment for, I think it's like 3 weeks, and the only way you could communicate with people was through like a Facebook style app, but you don't know if they're actually who they say they are.
And half
So
of
you're
them,
trying-
half of them are catfish, half of them
Yeah.
are real, or you've no idea if they're
Yeah,
real
you have
or
no
not.
idea, but you're trying to sniff out who is actually being authentic and who is pretending to be someone that they're not through a series of games.
Sounds amazing. Sounds like I would have a great time doing that.
I think you'd hate it, but I love it.
Yeah, I love it so much. I've auditioned twice, never got a call back, but I've submitted tapes.
You should audition for Big Brother. That's a show.
Yeah, I think The Circle's the only reality show I would want to be on. I like Survivor, but you're not dropping me on no fucking island.
Well, Steve, we did it. We did it. We got through Movie May. What a journey it has been. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. I can't wait to see what's next. I feel like we have something up our sleeve. I don't think we want to talk about it just yet, though, right?
I probably will.
Well, whether you do or not, I'm not. But what I am going to tell you guys about is some cool things that we have going on. One of them being our shop, where you can buy a really cool High School Never Ends t-shirt. You can buy a really cool hat. And I think that we may also have some other stuff on there that I have gone through in previous episodes that may or may not exist, including maybe a sleeveless jean jacket and or fingerless gloves. And nothing that I could think of that's tied to UHF. Maybe what do they have in UHF that we could potentially have branded High School Never Ends? I can't think of anything right now. Actually, I had something and I forgot.
Like a fire hydrant that a dog could pee on?
Yeah, actually, it was the butter treats. It was the butter treat
Oh, there you go.
cookies. That was the joke, and it's fallen flat because I forgot about it. But that's okay, guys. Check us out. The easiest way to get to our shop is via our hub, our website, www.hsnepod.com. Go check it out. Also, don't forget to give us a rating on either or Spotify or iTunes. 5-star reviews are awesome, right? It helps the show, but even more important, we love those written reviews. We want to know what you think about High School Never Ends, the show. So let us know. Write us a review. Let us know what you think. Let us know how it makes you feel. And we will definitely read it and enjoy it.
That's right. We're on all the socials, or, Instagram and X and Facebook. You can also join our Discord server by going to hsnepod.com. Lots of good pop punk, chatter. We talk about movies, talk about the episodes, talk about anything that you guys want. It's a great little community. We are going to be back next week. Movie May is done, and You Pick 'em June is coming up next. So everything we're talking about June, you guys chose it. We did not. Until then, keep on rocking your dad bods, throw up your rock hands, and blast the pop punk.
Internet! I'm Coy Jandro, a Bostonian who loves pop culture, comic books, and people. And I host Coycast. It's a podcast about all those things. If it fits in on a con floor, we talk about it on Coycast. Myself and producer Jake do previews, reviews, deep dives, and tinfoil hat theories about everything from movies, TV, and the comic books themselves. I also like to dish out comic recommendations from my 100-plus pull list a week so you know what's best to buy. So join us, True Believer, on Coycast.com or wherever you're listening to this podcast right now.
Dragon Way.